You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. You can also watch us on the talkSPORT YouTube channel. Thank you for being with us. I'm Hugh Woozencroft alongside Rory Jennings. We argue throughout the break about what Manchester United should do next when it comes to their manager's position. Very much a stable managerial position at Tottenham Hotspur at the moment under Ange Postecoglou. The season didn't really finish the way they would have hoped. Missed out on the Champions League, but there will be finally, I think, a lot of change in that squad as the club backs, and it should back, Ange Postecoglou after the season that they had in terms of the quality of football they produced at times. So let's get the latest on Spurs on the Transfer Insiders with Chris Cowlin, host of the Spurs Chat podcast. Good evening.
You, Rory, good evening to you.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm smiling because I think that we have had a successful season. I know some people have been very critical about it, but it is progress. I think that Ange Postecoglou has come in and he's done a decent job. And I think that people have to be realistic and honest about it, that he's walked into a massive job. Harry Kane, of course, left at the eve of the start of the season. And there is so much work to do. Lots of players need to come in the door and lots of players still need to go out the door. So there is a hell of a lot of work to do. But I think overall, if you'd have asked people at the start of the season, would you have taken fifth? I think a lot of fans would have taken it. And that isn't, not being ambitious. Of course, we all want to be ambitious. We all want to achieve the best at our football club. But I think it's about being realistic.
You mentioned players coming in there. We're going to kick this off immediately, and it's going to be hostile, Chris. Conor Gallagher, what are you thinking? Hands off.
I think he's had a really decent season. I think Cole Palmer and Conor Gallagher are certainly the standout players at Chelsea. He's a very, very hard-working midfielder, and I liked him. During the loan spell at Crystal Palace, he's played well at Chelsea. He's really developed there. Pochettino, I think, got the best out of him this season. So he would be a decent signing for Spurs. Can I see it happening? Probably not. Would the clubs deal with one another? Probably not.
Is that the reason that you don't see it happening, or is it the finances? Apparently Chelsea won upwards of 50 million for him. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Would you be happy if Tottenham went out and actually spent that money on him, even though there's 12 months on his contract? Or do you think, given the way that you've spent money, even though there's a little bit more reserved, I don't know how Spurs fans feel about whether you should be dipping into your pocket at this point in time?
I think, Hugh, with someone like him having Premier League experience, I think that would say an awful lot. I think that he would walk straight into the team and improve our team. Would I see the clubs doing business with one another? Probably not. I'd be very. Would I position knowing that they need to sell one another? It could raise a few eyebrows. But would I like to see him in a Spurs shirt? Absolutely.
There have been some departures from Tottenham today. They're going to release 4 senior players. Ryan Sessegnon, been some Tanganga and Ivan Perisic. Sessegnon's got interest from Fulham over a free transfer. Bayern Munich have already decided to make Eric Dyer's loan move permanent. He's had a successful loan spell there, of course. Millwall have offered to sign Japhet Tanganga. He was on loan there as well. And Perisic are tipped for a return to his boyhood club. Hajduk Split, of course, very much towards the back end of his career. I just wanted to ask you about Hajduk. Kind of very much towards the back end of his career. I just wanted to...
It was definitely time to go. These players that have left today, there is no surprise at all for any Spurs fan that these players have gone. We need to do a lot more. But, someone like Eric Dyer, we knew that he didn't want Eric Dyer playing in this high line of his.
Yeah, I think that is fair enough. Chris, can I ask you how you're feeling about the new season? Because as inspired as you would have been through the season and looking back on the whole, I'm sure that you were very happy with what Postecoglou managed to achieve. Towards the end of the season, it felt like it had gone a little bit stale. It felt like Tottenham were fairly vulnerable, and I truly believed that if the season had gone on for another 3 or 4 games, Chelsea were breathing down your neck. There was a chance that you could have overtaken. Are you feeling invigorated for the new season? Do you think that he will learn from the errors that we saw towards the end of last season?
I think that he would have learned a lot about the first season at the club. But as I've said, Rory, and I can't really talk about next season yet until I know what Spurs are going to do in the transfer window, because I can't stress enough that there is so much work to do in terms of players coming in the door and players going out the door. And it is all about consistency. And you know that, Spurs have not got the squad to be consistent, week in, week out. Yes, it was disappointing the way that we ended the season, but we have seen enough as Spurs fans to know what Postecoglou can bring. And I'm sure that when he has the players that he wants into the football club, then I'm sure that he will be successful at Spurs. It's funny because I come on talkSPORT this time last year talking to you guys, and I feel like it's a very, very similar conversation with Spurs having to do so much work in the transfer window. But we all know, go back to the Pochettino days, we went 518 days without signing a player. So there is a lot of work to do. There are a lot of players that have been at the football club for a long period of time. They probably should have been shifted out of the door. Recruitment has been bad in recent seasons. But when you look at the 12 months that Postecoglou has been at the football club, the 2 transfer windows have been very positive. The club have made very positive change on and off the pitch. So that does need to continue. I can't stress that enough, that the board need to back Postecoglou in the right way, because if you count Pochettino when he left the football club in 2019, we've had 7 different managers in the dugout. That cannot continue. So we've got to give someone like Postecoglou the time, the tools, the money, and most importantly from the fans, he needs the patience.
What do you think he needs this summer to improve the team? What kind of positions are you most looking forward to see?
We've got to strengthen again at left back, at right back. We're playing in the Europa League. Hopefully, we're going to go a lot further in the domestic cups as well. Central midfield is certainly an area that we need to look at. And mainly a striker. We were talking about this last summer about Harry Kane leaving. Who are Spurs going to bring in? I think that most Spurs fans, or a lot of Spurs fans, certainly were disappointed at the fact that we only had Richarlison as an option. I know Heung-min Son has played up front as well, but that hasn't quite worked in the way that perhaps we would have liked. He's more or he's a lot more better than out on the left and coming in. But there is so much work to do. In all positions, we need to strengthen. And when we're playing European football, which, of course, is another positive for next year, because, of course, we've had no European football this season, you need to strengthen in all areas.
In terms of the new season, Chris, I think most clubs seem to these days prioritise European qualification. They love the idea of top 4. I think certain clubs, though, and Tottenham Hotspur are a great example of this, need silverware. It's 2008 since you last won a trophy. If I were to offer you silverware or top 4, what would you take?
I would, Rory, I've always said I love trophies, and we haven't won an FA Cup since 91. And you've rightly just pointed out, and I knew you would, that we haven't won a trophy in so long, 2008 against your beloved Chelsea. But it has been too long. All joking aside, Spurs need to add silverware, but it is all about progression as the football club. If Spurs fans are seeing entertaining football and we put a trophy in the cabinet and Spurs have suddenly fallen out of a European spot, but they still see us playing the right way and doing the right things and progressing as a football club, then everyone will be happy.
Just finally, I wanted to ask you on a player which I don't think any Spurs fan would want to see leave, and that is Son Heung-min, and the possibility, 31 years old now, that he is on the shopping list for a number of Saudi Pro League clubs. He has vowed to stay at Tottenham, wants to recapture his best form. He was linked to Saudi last summer as well. Do you think that there's a possibility he leaves Spurs this summer?
Absolutely not.
That is
absolutely not. There is no way that Heung-min Son is going anywhere. Of course, he's captained the side, for the first season under Postecoglou. He is wanting to be a part of this rebuild. He is wanting to be a part of this squad. He has loved being the leader on the pitch, off the pitch as well this season. And there is no way on this planet that Heung-min Son is going anywhere.
I'm surprised. So, Chris, do you still see Heung-min Son as a key component of Tottenham's first 11 next season?
Absolutely. He is our leader, and you know that he can always spark that bit of magic. You know that he can create a goal, score a goal. He's scored some wonderful goals for Tottenham. Yes, it has been noted that perhaps he's lost a yard of pace this season, but he can give so much, and he will always be that key player for Spurs, certainly for next year.
Out of contract next summer, talks ongoing when it comes to Heung-min Son. That was the latest report. They do want to extend his contract for a number of years, but at 31 years old, don't know how much money he's going to want to stay at the club, no matter what.
They do actually have an option to extend the contract for another 12 months, which is highly likely. And that is highly likely to happen in the next couple of weeks.
All right, fantastic. Chris Cowlin, host of the Spurs Chat podcast, thank you for that and joining us here on the Transfer Inside.